Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope well. I have to say that I do appreciate your patience and understanding with myself at this time with everything that's going on with my husband's father. We are juggling a couple of different households, plus a lot of different responsibilities that we normally do not have to manage. And so this has been a very interesting season of life for me. And so I have unfortunately had to make some priority arrangements that weren't necessarily my preference, but things that just had to be the way they are at this time. However, I did make sure that I was able to record this lesson for you guys since I was not able to meet with you all last week. And so I at least get a chance to say hello by video. So we are going to jump back in. If you'll recall, we had started the next chapter last week, the chapter on accepting personal responsibility. I thought not last week, excuse me, the last time we met, that lesson I felt like was a very informational lesson, lots of good content in there. And you guys know that if there's ever a time that I am going over the information too quickly or you don't feel like you're getting enough context to what I'm saying, please make sure you go back and read the book for yourself. I'm pulling everything from this book directly along with my own personal experience that I'm adding to this. So if you feel like, man, I really could use more explanation, you know you're always able to private message me or just read the book. There's lots of good nuggets in here. I can't obviously cover everything, but I do try to give you a good cross-section of what we're talking about. So tonight we're going to continue on in that chapter. We're going to be on page 55 in your books. And we are talking about self-motivation. I think this might be a concept that can be a little foreign. Most people think of the word motivation and they think of things that would motivate you. You know, inspirational quotes, maybe a powerful message, some person giving encouraging words, you know, talking to your parents, talking to your pastor, those kinds of mentoring talks that might help us be motivated to do the things that we need to do or to grow in the way that God would have us to grow. But tonight, this morning rather, we are going to be talking about self-motivation, how you can motivate yourself in order to be successful. Now, only you, point at yourself, only me, I'm the only one that can truly inspire myself to grow. Now, I can hear a lot of positive conversation. I can have a lot of pats on the back, but truly, if I do not have the motivation within myself to want to grow and to do the things that it takes to grow, then I am not going to be successful in achieving growth or potential or success or purpose. So self-motivation is critical to achieving the things that we desire in God's kingdom. You have to learn, and it is a learning process, and you have to be willing to motivate yourself. If you have to rely on other sources to move you into action, again, these are people like your pastor, your parents, maybe you follow things on social media that can be inspirational. But if you have to rely on those, then you are only going to do the minimum required because they are going to set a bar for you. Now, they may know you very well and know that you have certain capabilities and certain aspects that you can achieve. but they don't know the you on the inside, the you that can push and challenge yourself past those things. So if you are continually relying on outside motivation, you're only going to be doing the minimum required. Well, they said I needed to read, 2 chapters a day. So you're only going to do that minimum. You're only going to meet that requirement. You're just going to do what it takes to get by. This is enough. This is all that they have required of me. And when you allow someone else to set the bar for your growth, you're going to limit your own abilities. However, if you will challenge yourself and push past your own excuses, you are going to be more successful. Now, I am notorious for procrastinating. It is one of I consider it a strength. It probably is not a strength, but I am one of those people that if a event needs to take place or a project needs to be completed, I am going to wait until I have that final heavy pressure and anxiety upon me, because I feel like it motivates me to do better work. Now, that doesn't work for everybody, but I do know that within myself, if I want to be challenged, part of challenging myself is moving outside of my excuse of procrastinating. Well, I know I can do well if I just saved this for the last minute. But if I push past that and say, you know what, instead of waiting, I'm going to begin working on this project right now. I'm going to start making a list. I'm going to start gathering the resources, the supplies, whatever it is, whatever is required. And that is a way that I push past my own excuses in order to be motivated to be more successful. That way that when and if that project is due, I am not panicking at the last minute. I have pushed myself past that, and I have challenged myself to grow outside of the excuse that I always give. That's just an example. Now, you may have different criteria in your life, but you alone know what's inside of you. You know the excuses that you give, and you alone can challenge yourself to move past those. Now, there are 3 sources for self-motivation. The first one is your vision. Okay, now this is simply the divine perspective on your purpose, your calling, your goal, or whatever it is. What is the divine perspective? What do you feel like God has called you to? What place has He called you to? What purpose has He called you to? That is the vision that you're going to keep at the forefront of your mind. You're going to visualize this future. Now, you are there in Bible school, and some of you may be working in the future endeavor that you plan on pursuing once you graduate, but there are those of you that aren't working there yet, but you still are able to visualize where God is calling you. Put it in your mind. Another way that you can do is you can say this out loud. One day I will, whatever it is, I will pastor a church. One day I will, I don't know if you have any kind of desire to be in office, to serve on a higher board level. God bless you if you do. That's a lot of responsibility and challenges that I personally do not have any desire for. But maybe that's something that you feel like God has called you to. That's awesome. We need people in leadership that are willing to serve. But you need to make sure that it's something that you can visualize and that you can state. Say it out loud. Write it out where you can see it. And don't write it in a sense of, someday, or if possible, write it out as though it were already true. I will pastor a church sometime in the future, but not as in a sense of, like it maybe happen or I hope to. Make sure that it's something solid and concrete. Your habits. Okay, now this one, we have talked about habits quite a bit in this class, and habits are important. A lot of times we feel like that when God has called us to a certain thing or to a certain purpose, that there's going to be this great, explosive, moment of revelation, of understanding, of calling, and there's going to be bells and whistles and lights and banners and all of this, you know, spectacle happening. But actually, these types of things come along by habits. Those annoying, at times, little things that we do on a day-to-day basis. They're small gestures. They're not grandiose plans. They are simple, they are small, but they are consistent. These habits will make you more effective in achieving any goal or purpose that God has called you to. If you're waiting for the big, you know, special moment with all the lights and all the, you know, fanfare, you're probably going to be waiting a long time, because that usually does not happen for most of us. But you can rely on the habits that you're creating today, the habits that you're creating here in Bible school. You can count on those to create character and behavior that will lead you towards success. These are a long series of smaller actions that will become habits in your life. It's going to take years of habits. It's going to take months and weeks. You're not going to notice, you know, if, oh, I'm going to read my Bible for 15 minutes today, and then tomorrow you're going to be called to speak at a general conference. I'm sorry, that's just not how those things happen. But you will notice that the more consistent you are with those things that you're supposed to be doing, how God will find ways to use you in a more consistent way. You might be asked to teach a Bible study. You might be asked to testify at your home church. Opportunity for ministry occurs when you have actually created a ministry to be used. So if you're not creating ministry within your own heart, within your own mind, within your own lifestyle, you're not necessarily going to have those opportunities to be used in ministry. And again, this is in regards to maybe pulpit speaking. But the same applies to music ministry. If you're not spending the time day in and day out on practice, well, they're not necessarily going to ask you to sing a special on Sunday morning, because you haven't put in the work. You haven't put in the day-to-day time that it takes to be a success. One other thing about habits that I want to talk about is a trick, or maybe I would say a helpful way for you to create habits and make them easier. A lot of us struggle with habits because it's hard to replace a bad habit with a good habit. But if you already have good habits in place, what you can do is something called habit stacking. So you're going to be like stacking those habits. So what are some good habits that you have in place? Brushing your teeth every day. That's a good habit. One thing that you can do if you're trying to create a new habit, say you wanted to start taking your vitamins and you want to try to get healthy and make sure that your body's healthy. Well, you can habit stack brushing your teeth with taking your vitamins. You know you're going to brush your teeth every day. And so your mind is cued, oh, I'm brushing my teeth. I've also got to take my vitamins. And so when you do habit stacking, what happens is it triggers your brain into remembering the additional good habits that you want to create. Say you have a habit of prayer every morning. I know there at Bible school, you guys wake up Monday through Friday every morning super early and have prayer time. What if you habit stacked some time in the Word? So you have your prayer time, and then you carve out a space where I'm going to read my Bible. And so now you've already got a good habit that's established, but now you're going to stack an additional good habit. Something that we have discussed also in this class that I feel like is part of success when it comes to growing, especially, you know, spiritually and personally, is journaling. But it's not necessarily an easy habit to take on because it requires a lot of focus. It requires, you know, intention. which again is something that it can be difficult for us to have, is to be intentional. But how many of you enjoy breakfast every morning? I know I do. I sit down with my cup of coffee and have breakfast every morning. Me and my dog, we snuggle on the couch. And one thing I like to do when I have my breakfast is I habit stack journaling. And this can be, however, journaling can be anything you like it to be. But again, I'm only giving these as examples. These are not necessarily habits you need to create. So think of the habits that you have already established in your life. What are things that you do on an everyday basis, things that you don't even necessarily have to think about, they're automatic, and then attach a new good habit to that. Okay, so then your habits aren't necessarily new and foreign. You're not trying to fit them into your schedule in some crazy place. You're just adding them in place that you're already doing, the good habits that you already have established. Okay, so build and create good habits, and you need to eliminate the bad habits. You guys know this. One of the biggest detriments to our success when it comes to being successful in pursuing purpose and pursuing vision is when we allow negative self-talk, which is, our own stinking thinking, to come into place. You have to make sure that you're creating a good habit to replace that negative habit of, I'm a failure, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not anointed enough. Whatever that negative self-talk is, replace that with a good habit of, I am learning, I am growing, I am changing, I am putting forth the effort. Just try to create that so that you're not allowing that negativity to be the forefront in your mind. These are going to be small, little baby steps that you're going to take, but they will eventually create patterns, and patterns create behaviors, and behaviors create confidence, and once you create confidence, you will eventually create success. Little by little, one thing after another, slowly but surely, you will be successful as long as you are moving in a forward motion. Now, motivation creates motivation. That seems counterintuitive. It feels like you need some force on the outside to push you into being motivated. But actually, once you motivate yourself, what you will find is that you will be motivated to be motivated. What happens is your brain is in a forward momentum. You're moving in a forward pace, and you will naturally start feeling all of those positive effects of the motivation that you have created. You have momentum. Remember, we talked about any object that is in motion will remain in motion until something stops it. That's exactly what motivation is. So encourage or motivate yourself to achieve your goals, and you will naturally be self-motivated. Motivation will create motivation. The third example here is your strategy. Okay, how are you going to accomplish these things? So you need to be very strategic or intentional when you're creating your plan of action. You're going to create small, doable steps. Now, this is a super cool term that I learned, my goodness, many years ago when I was in high school. And your steps or your goals should be SMART. Okay, this is an acronym, S-M-A-R-T. What do these stand for? And I will have one of the girls drop a little picture in our Facebook group chat to show that, so that you can have something to reference. But SMART goals or SMART steps should be specific. Don't be random or, just kind of obtuse about it. Make sure that you are intentional. Very specific goals. You want your goals to be measurable. Okay, you want your goals to be actionable. These are goals that you can actually put into place. You can actually do them. You want them to be realistic or relevant. Okay, Can you do these goals? And if you complete this goal, is this actually going to be relevant to the purpose or the growth that you're trying to achieve? Last, the T is time bound. Do not just leave it open-ended. Make sure that you set a time, a date, a day of the week, or whatever it is, so that you know that I have to complete this specific goal or action by X date. So again, SMART goals are specific, they are measurable, they are actionable, they are relatable or relevant, realistic, and they are time bound. If you look on page 58 in your books, there is an example there of a SMART objective. And it starts, if you look down the line there, from poor to better. So a poor goal would be spend more time with God. Well, yes, of course, we should all do that. But what would that mean specifically? So let's look at the next one, better. You're going to read scripture and pray for 15 minutes each day at 7 a.m. That's better. That's more specific. That is specific. It's measurable. You know when you've accomplished it. It's actionable. You totally can do it. It's realistic or relatable or relevant because it's something that will help you grow your relationship with Christ. And it also is time bound, 7 a.m. That's not so hard. Another poor example would be become the best spouse ever. Now, I know some of you are single, and this is a goal that you have way in the future, right? But it's kind of a little arbitrary. There's not a whole lot of, value add right there. Just be the best spouse ever. Well, what on earth does that mean? So a better example of that would be set an appointment with my partner for marital counseling within the next 2 weeks. Now, no one panic. Marital counseling isn't necessarily because your marriage is in trouble. Sometimes marital counseling is so that your marriage can be better than it already is. So again, that particular better example is very specific. It is measurable. It is actionable. It is relevant or realistic, and it is time-bound within 2 weeks. Okay? So the Bible tells us in Habakkuk 2:2, it says, to write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. When you are making a plan of action, when you are making a goal, or you're trying to be specific about where you are headed within your growth, within your purpose, or within the calling that God has for you, you need to make sure that it is something that you can write down, something that you can move and pursue towards. Success can be achievable when you set yourself up in the most optimal way. What's the best way? What is the best way to set myself up for success when it comes to pursuing growth, pursuing purpose, pursuing vision? What's the best way to do that? Again, the things that we've just talked about today. Not creating healthy or safe actions or habits or behaviors will lead to failure and frustration. If you're not going to take the time to do that, to be specific, to be creating these goals and creating plans, then you're going to find out that you're going to be very frustrated. You're not going to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve or move to the place that God has called you to be. So, very interesting subject tonight about self-motivation. There is tons and tons. If you guys will even spend 10 minutes Googling motivation, you will find that there is so much that can be offered. But these are just some nuggets of truth, again, from our book. But motivation is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful resource, and it's one that each of us has within ourselves, and we can use to pursue purpose, to pursue kingdom, to pursue calling, to pursue relationship. We have to be able and willing to motivate ourselves. So with that being said, I would like to have a homework assignment for you guys. This is not going to be too difficult. And again, it will be a Google form that I will have one of the girls post in our Facebook chat group. And I would like for you to write a SMART goal. It can be anything. It can be a personal goal that you would like to achieve. It could be just an example just off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be spiritual, but it needs to be SMART. And again, that is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, so those 5 components. And I'll make sure that in the homework you will be able to see those particular areas that you can fill out. And that's it. So again, thank you all so much for your patience and understanding at this time with my family and the things that we're going through here. I do truly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And I cannot wait to see you guys in person. And I will hopefully be live again next week. If everything goes according to plan, we should have everything where I can be live with you all. Again, I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day and take care. God bless.